So today we're studying Chapter 3, the status quo. Canto 3, the status quo, Chapter 9, Brahma's prayers for creative energy, verse 15. Yasyavatar gunakarma vida dambahanani. Okay, I'll do word for word. Yasyavatara guna karma vidambanani. Yasyavatara guna karma vidambanani. Namani, Ye, Suvigame, Vishvasya, Granati, Namami, Ye, Suvigame, Vishvasya, Granati. Naika Janma, Shamalam, Sahasaiva, Hitva, Te Naika Janma, Shamalam, Sahasaiva, Hitva, Samyanti, Apavritam Ritam, Tam Ajam Prapadye, Samyanti Apavritam Ritam Tam Ajam Prapadye, Yasyavatara guna karma vidambanani. Namani ye sugame vishvasa grinanti. Te naika janma shamalam sahasaiva ritva. Samyanti abrifatam ritam tam ajam prapadye. Yasyavatara guna karma vidambanani. Namani ye sugama vigame vishvasa grinanti. Te naika janma shamalam sahasaiva hitva. Samyanti apavritam ritam tam ajam prapadye. I'm going to get this right. It's going to take a minute.
Dig in there, Kusha.
Yeah. You're going to bear with me. We're going to get this right. Yasyavatara guna karma vidambanani. Namani ye sudama vigame vishvasa grinanti. Te naika janma shamalam sahasaiva hitva. Samyanti ritam tam ajam prapadye. Yasyavatara guna karma vidambanani. Namani ye sugama vigame vishvasa grinanti. Te janma shamalam saha saiva hitva. Samyanti aprivritam ritam tam ajam prapadye. One more time. I gotta get this. I'm still not getting it. But Yasyavatara guna karma vidambanani. Namani Yesu vigam me vishvasa grinanti. Te naika janma shamalam sahasaiva hitva. Samyanti apavritam ritam tam ajam prapadye. Others.
Yasyavatara gunakarma vidambanani. Namani Yesu vigame vivasagrananti. Te naika janma shamalam sahasaiva hitva. Samyantya pavritam ritam tamajam prapadye.
Yasyavatara guna karma vidambanani.
Namani Yesu vigame vishvasagrinanti.
Namani Yesu vigame vishvasagrinanti.
Te naika janma samalam sahasaiva hitva.
Te naika janma shamalam sahasaiva hitva.
Samyanti apitam tam ajam pradamte.
Samyanti avrtam tam ajam prapade. Yasya whose avatara incarnations guna transcendental qualities karma activities vidambanani all mysterious namani transcendental names yea those asuvigame while quitting this life vivasha automatically grinanti invoke te they anaika many janma births shamalam accumulated sins sahasa immediately eva certainly hitva giving up samyanti obtain apavrita open amritam immortality tam him ajam the unborn prapadye I take shelter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I realize I did not say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Vasudevaya.
Translation. Let me take shelter of the lotus feet of him whose incarnations, qualities, and activities are mysterious imitations of worldly affairs. One who invokes his transcendental names, even unconsciously, at the time he quits this life, is certainly washed immediately of the sins of many, many births and attains him without fail. Repeat after me. Let me take shelter of the lotus feet
Let me take shelter of the lotus feet
of him whose incarnations,
of him whose incarnations,
qualities, and activities
qualities, and activities
are mysterious imitations of worldly affairs.
are mysterious imitations of worldly affairs.
One who invokes his transcendental names,
One who knows his transcendental names,
even unconsciously,
even unconsciously,
at the time he quits his life,
at the time he quits his life,
is certainly washed
is certainly washed
immediately of the sins
immediately of the sins
of many, many births,
of many, many births,
and attains him without fail.
and attains him without fail.
This is so beautiful. It answers the big question, what is the duty of a man who is about to die? Beautiful, beautiful verse. Purport. The activities of the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are a kind of imitation of the activities going on in the material world. He is just like an actor on a stage. An actor imitates the activities of a king on stage, although actually he is not the king. Similarly, when the Lord incarnates, he imitates parts with which he has nothing to do. In Bhagavad Gita 4:14, it is said that the Lord has nothing to do with the activities in which he supposedly engaged. Namam karmani limpanti, name karma phale spriha. The Lord is omnipotent. Simply by his will, he can perform anything and everything. When the Lord appeared as Lord Krishna, he played the part of the son of Yashoda and Nanda, and he lifted the Govardhan hill. Although lifting a hill is not his concern, he can lift millions of Govardhan hills by his simple desire. But he does not need to lift it with his hand, but he imitates like the ordinary living entity by this lifting. At the same time, he exhibits his supernatural power. Thus, his name is chanted as the lifter of Govardhan Hill, or Sri Govardhanadari. Therefore, he acts in his incarnations, and his partiality to the devotees are all imitations also. Just like the stage makeup of an expert dramatical player. His acts in that capacity, however, are all omnipotent, and the remembrance of such activities of the acts in that capacity, however, are all omnipotent, and the remembrance of such activities of the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is as powerful as the Lord himself. Ajamil remembered the holy names of the Lord Narayan by merely calling the name Tulsi closes your throat up. Have you noticed? I've noticed the astringent quality of Tulsi. His acts in that capacity, there's Tulsi in that butter, I don't know. However, are all omnipotent. The remembrance of such activities of the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is as powerful as the Lord himself. Ajamil remembered the holy names of the Lord Narayan by merely calling the name of his son Narayan, and that gave him a complete opportunity to achieve the highest perfection of life. So many, this is, as Maharaj will call it, this is a packed verse. The first thing that comes to mind when I see this is I look at the word imitation, and I think he's the Adipurusha, or the origin of everything. So it's almost facetiously written imitation, because who's imitating whom?
Yeah.
And imitation is said to be the fond form of flattery. So the living, little, teeny, tiny, insignificant living entity is imitating the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Srila Prabhupada uses the word imitation here. Why? Why does he use that word imitation? It's kind of also mysterious, just as the word mysterious comes in the second line, mysterious imitations of worldly affairs. It's very mysterious how he's using the word imitation, because, again, imitation is a fond form of flattery. So if the Lord is imitating our activities and we're imitating his activities, it's kind of a dance. It's kind of a flattering dance. It's kind of this sweet interaction, like when a little child imitates the mother. She's got a little baking oven and she's imitating and she's baking something, and the little boy is imitating mowing the lawn. It's kind of sweet. It's like practicing up for, I'm going to do this for you later on when I can. So this imitation, this flattery of imitation, it's just so lovely. It's actually out of affection that we imitate one another. So Krishna, Prabhupada's using this word imitation, although every source of all actions are coming from him, and we're dancing in the nightclubs, imitating Krishna's Rasa Leela. It doesn't get the same results at all. But we're imitating Krishna's pastime by dancing in the nightclubs. So this is very much off the subject of what I prepared for, but it just jumped out at me, this word imitation. The first thing that did jump out at me was lotus feet. It's saying here, let me take shelter of the lotus feet, of whose incarnations, qualities, and activities are mysterious imitations of worldly affairs. So first, let me take shelter of his lotus feet, who's so affectionate that he's playing to his audience. He's so expert that he can play to his audience, get our attention, things we kind of like to do. So he gets our attention. I've been at lectures where, it was for strictly professionals, like say Dhruta Karma was lecturing to the GBC about archaeological things, and it was so over my head. He was using such terminology that I felt, I didn't understand almost a word that he said. It was so profound and technical and professional that he lost me completely. But Krishna's so kind to us that he doesn't lose us at all. He keeps our attention. If there's a thing, if you study how to win friends and influence people, if you repeat what people say or you imitate what they say, their inflection, the way in which that they are speaking, even their accent, and maybe they say something and then you say it back to them, that's a way of drawing someone in, because they're thinking, oh, you're getting me. You get me. You get me. You're like repeating what I say, and it's sounding a little like me. So Krishna is imitating, even though he's source, and he's getting our attention. He's attracting us to him. He's playing to his audience, and he's captivating us, like capturing our mind, capturing our heart, capturing our soul, so that we want to dance with him instead of go out to the nightclubs. This is what we really, and we start vibrating his names. Just like I remember when I was in the 6th grade, it was the first time I had a boyfriend, and I was writing his name on paper over and over again. Writing his name. Oh, what a thing. But here, we can write the name or say the name of Krishna over and over again because we love him. And it's Krishna. It sounds so beautiful. His one who invokes his transcendental names, even unconsciously. We may be fully unconscious. We may not know. We may just say it because, like Ajamil, his son's name was Narayan. And how did his son actually get that name? Actually, it was given by a saintly person who wanted to give Ajamil half a chance because his life had been messed up so bad. And the saintly person was coming by just at the time that they were thinking of naming their children. And the other children he named were, the names were so super mundane. And the saintly person came by and said, "Is it okay, can I name the child?" And he said, sure, because Ajamil had so many children that he was kind of like, oh boy, another child, another name, so he was happy for the help. And so this saintly person said, please name the child Narayan. So it was the blessing of that saintly person that actually saved Ajamil, because who was the Ajamil thinking of? He was thinking of that child. And then, so unconsciously he said, Narayan, Narayan, at the time of death. And that gave him another chance. So just by a moment's association with a saintly person, it can change our life just 180 degrees. It gives us like either another chance or a rebirth or something in some way. It rectifies our entire existence. Just a moment's association with a saintly person. It's so amazing. So unconsciously, it can wash away, just saying the name of the Lord without even thinking about it, can wash away countless, countless lifetimes. And again, in the purport, it talks about even enacting, like if we imitate the pastimes of the Lord, like Lord Nityananda did, he in his youth, he was constantly putting on plays in the neighborhood about Krishna and Balaram's pastime. He was the person that was like constantly putting on all these beautiful leelas because he was in the leela. He was living the leela, so he was enacting the leela in his childhood. So here, the first thing we see is Padasevana, and speaking of Padasevana, and I wondered, can anybody tell me what the 9 processes of devotional service are?
Surrender to the spiritual master.
Well, there's one verse, Shravanam Kirtanam, that verse. It tells you what the 9 processes of devotional service are. It's Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakya, Atma Nivedanam. And the Mahajans, so many of the different Mahajans exemplify these processes, like Shravanam, Kirtanam. This Shravanam it's saying the names Vishnu, and Kirtanam, hearing, saying, remembering the names of Krishna. That's the beginning. So by the saintly person, by hearing something from the saintly person, automatically it's opening our heart. And then we begin to say Krishna, Krishna also. And then we start to remember about it. It develops just by speaking, just by hearing, just by remembering. And then that stimulates, or it encourages us to want to worship the lotus feet of the Lord because we're hearing about it. It's developing within our consciousness. And then from that Padasevanam, one wants to worship, actually learn a little bit more about how to do the worship. And from worship, then we start to pray to the Lord. Vandanam is prayer. Archanam is worship. And Dasya Dasya is actually becoming the servant of. We want to naturally become the servant of. These 9 processes, they actually snowball. It's like they develop on themselves. You first have to hear the name, and then you say it, and then you remember it. Then you would like to, because the name and the lotus feet of the Lord are one and the same. So you think you want to know more about the personality of Krishna, and you want to worship him, you want to pray to him, you want to serve him. And through service, we become his friend. We become Sakya. The Sakya, that Sakya Bhav, we want to naturally become the friend of Krishna. And after you become friends with Krishna, the natural thing is you don't mind giving everything to him. You don't mind Atman Nivedanam, surrendering everything to Krishna. It develops like this. So this process of devotional service is so sweet, but it starts with hearing the name from the lips of the pure devotee. And that's why we often like to hear. I remember there was one album when we first became devotees that was playing continuously in the temples, where Prabhupada played all the instruments and he sang all the kirtan. It was all pure Prabhupada, and it was so powerful to hear the holy name of the Lord from a pure devotee. And who's a Mahajan that performed one of these 9 processes? Bali Maharaj. He said, yes, I will give you 3 steps of land, whatever you want. Pada Sevana, go right ahead. And then when he took everything with 2 steps, he took even the whole universe and pierced the covering of the cosmic manifestation. He pierced the coverings of the universe, and he said, well, you said 3 steps, I took everything in 2, now you're cheating me. What else do you have to give me? So right away, Bali Maharaj said, I will give you my very self. Put that 3rd foot on my head. So from Pada Sevanam, he did Atmani Vedanam, take me. I give you myself. I give you everything. But his Guru Maharaj advised him, don't do it, don't do it. Don't. Sukracharya knew damn right well, this is Vishnu, he's going to take everything. He said that, he advised him like this. But Bali Maharaj was a Mahajan, and he didn't listen to his guru. It's advised, you don't need to listen to your guru if he's not advising you properly. If he's advising you improperly, if it's not going along with Guru Sadhu and Shastra, then you can simply disregard that instruction. There was definitely some consequences, but he had already surrendered to Krishna. And one who is surrendered to Krishna, no one can hurt. No one can hurt. So, he's giving us, he's showing us by example this Pada Sevana and Atman Nivedanam, which are 2 of the processes of devotional service. The part that gets me, because one of the themes of my life is I always want to bring it back, and Maharaj notes this, to the question, what is the duty of a man who is about to die? I always want to bring it there, because that's kind of like the bottom line. What is our duty when we're at the time of death? And here it says right here, even if you say the name of the Lord without even knowing, you can go, it's saying here, and attains him without fail, washed away immediately of the sins of many, many births, and attains him without fail. That's really amazing. And you think about who in the history of Vedic scriptures has shown us that way, and you think of Shankaracharya, who he was the head, he's an incarnation of Lord Shiva, and he came strictly to bring back the worship, bring back the devotees to the Vedic version after Buddhism. Buddhism was there, to keep people. It was Lord Buddha came with a particular purpose because the Vedic sacrifices were being abused and people were killing animals in these so-called Vedic sacrifices. And Lord Buddha came to say, enough already. Enough. Don't bother. Don't follow in this way. They had abused it to such a degree. And then Shankaracharya came to bring us all back to the Vedic version. And at the time of death, even though he was teaching impersonalism and the Shankars, that sampradaya is so much Mayavadi sampradaya. It's impersonalism. He's teaching pure impersonalism. But what did he say at the time of death? He said, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. 3 times, worship Govindam. He said it 3 times. And then he said, Muda mate, prapte sani hite marane, nahi nahi, nahi nahi, no, no, okay? Nahi nahi, raksati duk krin karane. And Prabhupada, he talked about this. I found it in Veda Base 9 times. And in a lecture on Nectar of Devotion in Bombay, January 9th, 1973, Prabhupada said, so Krishna is not subjected to this logic, Mimamsa grammar. No, Krishna is transcendental. Therefore, Sankaracharya said at the time of his death, Govind, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Mudamate, Prapti Sani Hite Marane, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane, Dukrin Du Prati Krin Prata. This means grammatical jugglery. So this is what Prabhupada's saying. So these Mayavadis, they coin words by grammatical jugglery. This word may be meant. This may be meaning like this. They're all grammatically jugglery. This jnana jugglery. Jnana. This is a type of philosophy. So they take advantage of this jugglery. Krishna is not subjected to this jugglery of words. Krishna keeps always his independence, and if you fulfill the condition, if you surrender unto him, then he will be revealed unto you, not by your jugglery of words. This is not possible. So he very much, in another occasion, he was giving a lecture in 1966 in New York on CC on Madhya Lila, chapter 20, verses 353 and 354. And Srila Prabhupada said, therefore especially he specified, Prapti sani hiti kale marane. When death will catch you, your grammar, dukne prata, will not save you. You fools. Nahi, nahi. He's saying it will not save you. Jai Panchatattva. You please become Krishna conscious, Krishna conscious. That was the instruction of Shankaracharya. And he was especially mentioned, he has especially mentioned Bhagavad Gita and Ganges water. He especially mentions a little quantity of Ganges water and a little study of Bhagavad Gita will save you from many dangerous positions. So even he, Lord Shiva, he's said to be the foremost devotee. And he expanded himself as Shankaracharya to bring us back to the Vedas. And he told us to please worship Govinda, worship Govinda. So, yes, that also in this purport, so much is, we're speaking about Govardhan Hill. And this pastime of Govardhan it's so relevant because even the residents of Raj, the Brijbasis, they were worshiping the demigods because they were appreciating the demigods who supplied them supposedly, supplied them with good crops and supplied them with rains. Like Indra, he's in charge of the rain. So they had an annual Indra Puja. And when just little Krishna, he was just so young, he got wind of this, what was going on. He went to his Pitaji and he said, Pitaji, what's happening here? I don't understand why you're doing this. And so he explained, yes, we've been doing this for so long, thousands of years. And he said, so he convinced his father by logic and argument and sweet words and his adorableness. I think he melted his dad down like Maruti melts down Radhesha, just by the sheer beauty and charm of Krishna, just by the sheer beauty and charm of a young, sweet person. His father listened to him. He said, oh, and he convinced him that actually land and the cow and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we need to simply serve and feed and worship them. We don't need to worship any of these other personalities. And so he put out like an APB to all the Brajavasis to cook and everything and bring. It was like the original potluck anakut, it's called, where they bring all these wonderful preparations to actually offer it to the Govardhan Hill. And Indra found out about it and got really angry, very, very angry. And he started to assemble all of his clouds and and gather all of these dangerous clouds and thunderbolts. And he was saying to them, I've been offended. They've taken away the things from me that are mine. They've been doing this for so long, and how dare they? So he ordered all the clouds and the cloud devatas to march directly to Vrindavan to attack the Brajavasis. Can you imagine? And so there was sound of thunder and lightning. I was in Braj one, it was so uncanny. We had for 8 minutes intense hail, and it was like we were in a gigantic grinder. I was at home, and all of a sudden I heard this roar. It was like rah, and just huge, gigantic hail was just. I had so many broken windows in my house. It was coming in sideways. I thought it was like totally frightening. I thought we're going to die. Because if it went longer than 8 minutes, there were 5,000 windshields broken, many animals killed. It was unbelievable, just in our area. And I thought to myself, my God, this is an act of nature, just so powerful, so frightening, so loud. It was like this roar of a gigantic demon. We're in Vrindavan going, oh my God, oh my God. And then it just stopped. And we walked around and we looked, the plants and the trees were just like beaten. And you can imagine, after going through that for 8 minutes, what the Brajavasis went through when Indra was attacking them with thunderbolts and lightning and torrents of rain and probably hail and every other damn thing. We only had it 8 minutes. And I thought, this is the end. This is the end. I didn't even know. I just ran out to the porch like, what is that noise? And all of a sudden, we were in a grinder. We were like being hail blasted from all directions. It was I have to say, having survived it, it was really kind of cool, but during it was like, Krishna, what's happening? We had some terrible thunderstorm at one point too, and I saw the finger of lightning that went right over to my AC. There's this digital box that's like a transformer kind of thing, voltage stabilizer, and the finger went right to it, and I thought, oh no, because it goes to the most powerful electrical thing, and I thought, it's going to go ruin my refrigerator, so I'm running into the kitchen, and this finger of light's coming right in, and I'm unplugging the refrigerator. Like, it attracts to itself that which is the most powerful electrical thing. The lightning just comes in. And when you see the force of Krishna's just nature force, and you think Indra, just inundated the Brijbasis for just days and days. But Krishna was just a young child, and he lifted Govardhan Hill on his pinky like a gigantic umbrella to protect them. So Krishna so easily can protect each and every single one of us from the most dangerous fear at the time of death. It's said that death is like a cat that carries a rat, kind of lets it get away for a minute and grabs it back just viciously and kind of hurts it a little, but then wants to play with it, lets it go a little bit and catches it again. A cat and a rat, it's vicious what goes on between. Like Nrsimhadev and Hiranyakashipu, he played with him. Nrsimhadev could have finished him just like that. But no, he wanted to play. So he let him go. There were points the demigods were like, ah! Because they were thinking that Hiranyakashipu was winning. So Krishna and his creation, like there the cat is sort of like Nrsimhadev, kind of playing with the living entity, letting him go a little bit and then capturing him again. Finally, he breaks his neck and carries him off and eats him. Now, that same cat, when he carries his own kitten, it's very carefully in the same mouth, by the scruff of his neck, but he does it very carefully. So it is said that death for a devotee is like the cat carrying his very own little kitten, very gingerly, very carefully. And the kitten feels no fear at all. Zero fear. Completely, I'm in the jaws of my mother. No problem. She'll give me milk soon. But for the non-devotee, there's tremendous amount of fear. There's ego. There's resistance. There's the need for control. It's monumental. Attachment to the bodily condition. This is me and mine. And I don't want to leave this place. It's all about me. What is this death? That's curtain that's dropping down on my life. So, Govardhan Jayate Shaila Kula Dirajo Yo Gopika Bir Udito Haridasa Vraya. The king of mountains named Govardhan is ever victorious. He is the best of all servants of Hari and was worshipped by the gopis. For a week he made his residence on the lotus palm of Lord Krishna, the disruptor of the sacrifice of Indra. This is in the Srimad Bhagawatam Rita 117. Hare Krishna, are there any questions or comments? Yes, Steve.
And in the beginning of the class, we was talking about meditation.
Imitation, yes.
And he was telling it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
but
imitation, it's flattering.
But at the same time, I saw some class from Srila Prabhupada and he said imitation can be dangerous.
Yes.
So can you put the good imitation in the bad imitation?
Yes, if you're imitating in an insincere, deceptive way, like yesterday I was seeing a particular person, and I mentioned to Nam Kirtan I prefer drug addicts to charlatan meditators, because there's some people, they quote big verses and they try to show off about, I lived in Vrindavan and this and that, and it's like they're big giant imitators, they're fakers, they're deceivers. So that's not the kind, it's like innocent imitation is flattering. Deceptive imitation is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Hare Krishna.
Question.
Yes.
So you were talking about earlier about Lord Buddha, Krishna comes in the form of Lord Buddha in avatars. He comes in the form of to actually reject the Vedas in the name of animal sacrifice. But sometimes we find in maybe in the Vedas it's said it's definitely not encouraged to kill animals, but it's said that if you do kill an animal, the Brahmin order has to say a certain mantra into the animal's ear, and basically the mantra is that I'm killing you in this life, but you have to kill me in this life. So on one hand, it's saying, you know, animal sacrifice is prohibited, but in another sense, it's saying it is. And so sometimes it's a little confusing. Like sometimes you find one of the biggest animal sacrifices festivals are actually in India. Well, no, it's actually Nepal, I take that back. It's called the Gita Festival or something like that. They kill thousands and thousands of animals in a short period of time. I think that different people are protesting it and trying to stop it in that regard. But it's interesting that on one hand, Hinduism talks about extreme non-violence. We talk about Jains or Buddhists, not Buddhists, but Jains or those particular type of people. But on the other hand, they say, well, no, you can do it in this respect. And I guess this is kind of like related in the same respect that even with these Smarta Brahmins, even today in India, the Smarta Brahmins criticize even Srila Prabhupada for initiating non-Indians into the Vaishnava tradition. And even so much that they've criticized ISKCON for putting on Rath Yatras because they say that Rath Yatras are only going to be a particular time, a particular day. So how is it that we have a clear understanding what Prabhupada has given us, and Prabhupada said that he's kind of giving the Vedas as it is, not addition or subtraction, but as it is. But yet, so many other Brahmins that are actually born into the culture are still stuck into these little kind of things that, you know, like the caste system, like they understand that you can only be born in a particular type of caste. Whereas it's stated very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita that it's by qualities, not by one's birth, right? So how is that there's such kind of like a misunderstanding when you go to India, but and then between sometimes what we read and Bhagavad Gita or the Vedas or what Prabhupada has given us.
I'm not sure what the question
So
is.
the question is, why is it that so we so clearly understand what Lord Buddha and that finds, but at the same time there's still sacrifices out of going in some respects. And so how is it that we so clearly understand what Prabhupada has given us, but yet the Smarta Brahmins don't understand this? They actually even criticize Prabhupada in some regard. So my question would be, is that why is that so? Why do we understand and other people that follow the Vedas don't?
Well, by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru, and by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. So we're in this Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya, and when Lord Chaitanya came, he abolished this concept of caste system. You know, the Namacharya was Srila Haridas Thakur, who was born in an Islamic family. He was not interested in these caste system, and that was 500 years ago. So he already was setting the caste system on his ear and replacing it with the Daivi Varn Arsham, that it's not that we don't have natures, but whatever we do, we do it in relation to service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this Harinam is the Yuga Dharma that Lord Chaitanya gifted us, is that we no longer have to do these Vedic sacrifices. In all the 4 ages, there were 4 different prescribed, like in Satya Yuga, we were meditated for 10,000 years straight. Can you do that? 10 minutes is hard for me. So that's Satya Yuga. That was the prescribed form of spiritual advancement at that time. In Treta Yuga, it was the fire sacrifices. And that involved the proper chanting of mantras. It had to be pronounced so properly that, yes, that actually when the animal went into they didn't lose their life, they got a new body. They got a brand new, fresh, young body if the mantra was chanted properly. And then in Dwapara Yuga, deity worship was the prescribed Yuga Dharma at that time. Fortunately for us, during this Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya has discounted it to such a simple process. We don't have to become like super expert in massive amounts of very elaborate deity worship. We can simply congregationally chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And everyone, please join us Saturday between 3:30 and like maybe about 5:30 or 6 or something like that, down in Queen's Surf And Shri is going to make us this amazing pudding. She let me taste some. I never tasted anything like it. Super fabulous pudding to encourage us to want to come to Harinam Sankirtan. So please join us in the Yuga Dharma. That Yuga Dharma is congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And I hear that Jagopal is sponsoring the pudding. So thank you so much. I heard something. Anyway, the Yuga Dharma, hey, we're feasting and chanting it. What could be easier or sweeter or more wonderful than the process that we've been given now, this Harinam Sankirtan, the Yuga Dharma for this age of Kali. We're so fortunate. Is that okay? Thank you. Hare Krishna. Glories to Prabhupada.
Yeah.